everyone. Welcome to Inner Peace Better Health. I'm your host, Saima, and today we have an extraordinary guest, Jim Rogers Stigler. Jim is a US Marine veteran and actor with over 20 years of experience and a true master of life. We are going to explore how acting tools and techniques can help you grow and develop your spirit. Let's dive right in. Jim, what inspired you to connect acting with spiritual growth?
Well, it's a deep question for me because it goes back so far. This goes back to when I was age 4. When I was age 4, my parents took me to a midnight mass, and the concept of eternity just kind of freaked me out. The idea that there's no end, there can be no middle. If there's no middle, it's just a perpetual beginning. And my mind went to that place where, well, if I live forever, how do I not do everything more than once and go crazy? So boredom freaked me out. So I regressed into my mind, and instinctually, I started treating my mind like a computer. I started creating these different programs to keep me busy, to keep me not thinking about that thought. And two of the first programs I created were my suits and bubbles. My suits were just different versions of myself. My bubbles were like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. And I lived that's the way I learned how to live. I would just meet people, I'd copy different versions of them, exercise that life through myself through a bubble. And then around 2008, when it was a few years after I got into acting, I realized that my suits were essentially just different characters, and my bubbles were just a version of Stanislavski's Magic Gift, among others. So that's when I came to the realization that this unique way that I was living, though I did it a little differently, was still systemically teachable through the tools and techniques that came about 100 years ago through the advent of a gentleman named Konstantin Stanislavski.
That's admirable. Can you share personal experience where acting profoundly impacted your spirit?
Oh yeah, a lot of time. Well, actually, one of the key moments was I was just around 2007. I wrote and produced a play when I was living in New York City at the time, and it was just it's the first. I had no idea what I was doing. I stepped into an arena that was so much bigger than my knowledge and skill set, and everything was kind of falling apart. I was literally supposed to walk into a venue and set up for a reading we had. And then the venue's like, "Well, sorry, somebody paid us more money, so you guys are out." So I had no place to produce the reading, and I remember outside walking so defeated. I was walking home ready to give up, and I felt myself just shove myself from behind, and that's the only way I could describe it. Again, because I have all these different versions of me, the version of me that was shattered was shoved by a different version of me that took over. And in that moment, I recalibrated myself, and I called up a couple places. I found a new venue. I got everybody moved. I posted the director to tell everyone at the old spot if they came, this is where the new spot is. And like within a half hour, we had everything moved over. And when we started, we only held it for like 15 minutes just for people who were late. So it was like in that moment, had I not had these parts of me built up, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
That's incredible, Jim. How did that moment change your perspective on life?
Well, is that and among others, it was just like I said, it let me see that essentially what this is, it's a new form of literacy. It's like when we gave written literacy or reading to the world, it changed the world. When we gave numerical literacy or mathematics to the world, it changed the world. Well, I realized what I was looking at is a systemic way to give humanity mental and emotional literacy. It's a new way of being human, more richer, more fuller.
How can acting techniques help someone understand their emotions better?
Well, that's the heart and soul of what we do because you got to appreciate what an artist or what artists work with. Like I always say, metal workers with metal, glass workers work with glass, music work with instruments, and they compose songs. Painters canvas and paint. An actor, their marble is the mind and the emotions. That's what these people tapped into when they were creating these tools and techniques. They were tapping into what we could do to allow actors to use real emotions in imaginary circumstance, how to build a real working mindset for the imaginative. It's just they never realized the implications because we don't have a mind and emotions for the stage and a second set of mind and emotions for life. It's one and the same. So when they created these tools and techniques for the imaginative, they created it for all of us.
Can you give an example of a technique that listeners can try at home?
Absolutely. The base one that I like to give out is called the Stanislavski system, and it's 7 questions. These 7 questions, the purpose of them for an actor is to break down the moment so you can see all the choices that are available to you in that moment. Well, they work the same way in life. How many people go into the moments of their life asking all these questions to find out what the best answers? And the best way I can describe it, it's kind of like a submarine with sonar. A submarine's in the dark underwater, but it shoots out sonar, and that sonar pings things, and it finds out, okay, this is where the ground is, this is where the ships are, this is where the surface is, or vessels on the surface are. That's what the Stanislavski system is. It's these 7 questions that shoot out in the moment, and they bring back information. Now, when I list these questions off, just realize that they're not just acting questions. These are life questions. All right, number one is who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. The second question is where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment that you are in. When is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Things like, okay, is it before breakfast, after breakfast when I want to talk to someone? Are they going to be grumpy or whatnot? Number four, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to your purpose. Number five, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. Because if you don't understand those two things, you could be working for someone else's purpose, not your desire. Or someone else could be making you do that. Number six, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action, because action is important. That's how things happen. And number seven, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. What's stopping? And most people can't move forward because they don't know what's stopping. Most people can't go anywhere because they don't know what they want. So these questions here, and like this is just one small piece of all of this. Their purpose is to break down a moment to allow you to make those choices, to see those choices. And that's what I'm saying. It's like this is life we're working with. We don't see the implications of it.
That's really fascinating. How did you discover this technique's power?
Um, it it was in a moment, honestly. 2008, December of 2000. Actually, hold up, December 2007. I'm sorry. I was doing this film, Hunger, and I was doing a scene with an actor named Lyndon Ashby, and he was being filmed. I wasn't even on camera. I was just in the scene running dialogue with him. And when the director yelled cut, he just reached over and shook my hand with such intent and such gratitude. And I was taken aback. I'm like, what did I do? I wasn't even acting. I wasn't even in character. But what I didn't realize is because I'd lived my whole life that way, I was still in the moment with him. I was living that moment and it allowed him to do the scene better. But it took me about 2 months, or maybe a month after, I don't know, something like that. But it was from that handshake that I came to the point. I call it my quickening moment, like in the Highlander, where I just everything kind of came together for me in this relation to this idea, and I realized, like I said, that this is a teachable way to give mental and emotional literacy to humanity.
What role does mindfulness play in acting and spiritual development?
I'm sorry, I broke up a little. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. What role does mindfulness play in acting and spiritual development?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's again the whole point of being an actor is to be mindful. You have to be because you have to listen. You have to communicate. It's all about using your brain and your emotions. You have to feel your emotions truly and fully. When an actor gets up on stage and cries in pain, they're really in pain. If you're a good actor, I mean, there are people who fake it, sure, but the quality actors, the ones who win, acclaim, they're the ones who really experience those moments. And you have to be mindful to get there because you have to think about all the little pieces that come together, all the life that are in all the moments that we can live, but we miss. And most people miss life because they aren't mindful. Acting is a tools and technique that teach you how to be mindful.
All right, that's really admirable. Now, can you explain how acting can help someone overcome personal challenges?
Absolutely. Insecurities in life are what hold people back. In acting, one of the big insecurities they have is stage fright. And most people's insecurities and stage fright are linked in one simple thing, and it's not knowing. The whole point of doing the actor's work is to know all the beats, all the moments, all the lines. If you fill all that out, you don't have stage fright. There's no need for it because you know it all in a sense that, in the sense of the circumstances, you know all you need to know. So you don't have that issue. When people get up to try to talk to people in like a boardroom meeting or give a lecture and they have that fear of getting in front of a crowd, it's because they don't know all the beats. Yeah, they may know the material and what to say, but they don't know how to build themselves to be that version of themselves that can get up and be someone who's a speaker. And again, that's what acting does. It allows you to develop all the different versions of who you are. Because these tools and techniques allow an actor to be any human being on the planet mentally and emotionally. That's what the work does. That being said, if you're not someone who's the life of the party, you can take these tools and techniques, especially out of improv, learn those tools and techniques and easily become the life of the party because you've built those parts and you've developed yourself as a spiritual being more because that's what they do. These tools and techniques literally grow and develop you mentally and emotionally. You become more after using them.
That's noteworthy. Now, do you have a story of someone who used acting to overcome a significant obstacle?
Actually, there are quite a few. Um, There's the Sense Theater. What they do is they're helping kids with autism understand the social cues. Because generally, what I read in the article is that children with autism have trouble reading social cues. So what they have done, they have taken, like, the techniques from improvisation and taught these kids how a social environment works. So they don't need to read the cues, they know how the environment works, they're in a better place to work and engage it. There's also trauma drama that teaches teens who have dealt with trauma how to deal with trauma that's not connected to theirs. So if they had like something where they were abused, this will be they'll talk about a trauma like a car wreck or something like that. So it's not connected, and they'll teach the kid using acting techniques how to deal with trauma. So once they're built up and they have those tools, they can take it and work on their own trauma. There's also psychotherapy. Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno, back in the 1950s, created psychodrama literally from taking acting tools and techniques and putting them into group therapy. And it's been showing great results. And there's also a book called The Theory of Constructed Emotions with Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, where she talks about her theory of constructed emotions. And it supports what acting does and what acting says and how our emotions are developed and grown. So there's a lot of examples out there because I wrote a book about this after I kind of found it out, and I started doing research, and that's where I found all these other like Sing Sing, Sing Sing Maximum Security Prison. They just had a documentary or a movie, something came out about it, but it talks about back in the 1990s when there was a I don't know if I haven't seen the movie, but I know this is a story of it where these hardened criminals started doing plays, and Miguel Pinheiro came out of it, and he wrote this play called Short Eyes, which won an Obie Award and a Drama Desk, and I think it was nominated for a Tony. So like these were hardened criminals who, though they can't be released into the streets, they're still not being destructive now. They found some sort of peace through this art because again, it's helping develop them. And I'm asking the question, why aren't we teaching this sooner? If this art touched those criminals before their crime, they may have never done the crime, you know?
Oh, that's really inspiring. How did the journey influence your work?
Say it again.
How did their journey influence your work?
I don't the influence, I guess it just kind of it's hard to say because it's been so much and it's been such a long road and I've had so many different influences. Because like I said, the idea kind of came to me around 2008, so it's been a while now. And, there was a lot of influences from, like, just people I've known or people I've seen. So it's come from so many different places now, it's hard to pin it down into one thing. So I focus more not so much on where the influence came from, but where I can focus to, because I think that's the important thing. It's my my ultimate goal would be to see this idea put into the classrooms and children taught this right along math and, reading. Because like I say, if we do this, we can raise a whole new generation of people that we've never seen before that are mentally and emotionally competent on a level we've not reached yet.
How do you balance the mind and emotions in your acting practice?
Well, again, it's these tools. That's the balance. They teach you how to emotionally regulate because it's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym and you do your exercises, you start off small, you work with light weights, but if you stick with it, you work out and you build that repetition, then you grow and develop your muscles and you can do amazing things with them like gymnasts do. I mean, I could never do the things that gymnasts do because I don't develop my body in that. But emotionally, I'm like an Olympic athlete because I've spent my entire life growing and developing my emotion through techniques. Now, granted, the first 25 years of my life, I wasn't using acting techniques, but I kind of was. I just found them on my own because I connected with myself. It's the same thing like these techniques. Stanislavski said, "Don't." And one of his quotes is, "Don't stick slavishly to my ideas. You know, go out, find out what works for you." And that's kind of what we have to do with these techniques, which I use to grow and develop my emotions and give me that balance. I'm saying will help everyone else as well.
What exercises can listeners do to achieve this balance?
There's a couple different ones. Again, that's the purpose of the, Stanislavski system. One of them is to help balance yourself because it's grounding you in the moment. The more you understand about the moment, the more you can be grounded in it. There's also, the Meisner technique where it's repetition, and you need 2 people for that, so it's good to have a friend with you. But it teaches you how to understand behavior. And then there's the scene breakdown. All of these bits and pieces, they work hand in hand, but they develop soft skills. And that's what allows you to emotionally regulate or develop your theory of mind. Like communication skills. We're taught how to listen in multiple different ways. I don't just listen with my ears. I listen with my eyes. I listen to people's behavior. Because again, it's so crucially important. And we hear that, especially in relationships where men and women will say, well, I want my man to be more empathetic. I want him to listen. But it's like, as a male, where was I taught that? I wasn't. I learned it on my own, but we could teach it using these skills.
That's really helpful. How has this balance impacted your performances?
I think the balance really, it's important to me because I always say I'm a child of chaos. And I need something to keep me from tipping over because I'm moving in so many different directions. Um, but the balance to me is also a difficult dance because it's like the yin and yang, the light and dark. So you don't want to lean too heavy to one side because if you do, you'll teeter over and crash. So it's like I say, it's to me, it feels like a delicate ballet dance because I'm always blistering in so many different directions. But I really feel that's a part of it too, is the passion. Passion to me is a learned. I'm a firm believer that everything in life is a learned skill. So, like I was saying, passion is a learned and developed skill, and because I have grown and developed my emotions so strongly, people always tell me. I mean, I could talk about brushing my teeth, and someone would be like, "Oh, you're so passionate about talking about brushing your teeth." It's like, no, I'm just there's so much going on inside of me right now, emotionally, that it just pours out into everything I do. And if it wasn't for that balance, I would be a basket case.
Okay, what advice do you have for someone new to acting and who wants to use it for personal growth?
Um, well, it's new to acting. I guess I would say the work is the most important thing. You can't worry about the problem with most acting, and I realize, and I believe this is why this information has not been discovered yet. Because number one, nobody really looks to acting for this information. Actors always focus on fame and money. They don't focus on the work. If you focus on the, you may not be a movie star, but you'll work. That's the problem is people don't do that. So I would say as a new actor, focus on the work. Understand what it means to break down a moment. Understand what it means to be rich and full, simple and truthful, to exist presently in every moment, and you'll work. Um, I'm sorry, what's the second part of your question?
Okay, what are the first steps they should take?
The first steps? Um,
Yeah.
I guess the first steps in anything would be just to sit in the work, go over it over and over again. I mean, if you can go online and YouTube and just, you know, Google these things, then you'll get more information. Uh, if you really want, I keep forgetting to plug my book, but I wrote a book about this. It's called All Your Best Selves. how the performing arts toolkit can help you thrive anytime, any place, and with anyone. And I break these down. I explain the Stanislavski system. I explain Meisner. I explain Uta Hagen. I talk about improv. I explain how these tools and techniques work in acting, the entertainment world, and I also explain how they will work in life and how they can help you grow and develop. So if I would highly recommend just checking it out. It's on Amazon.com, or you can look on my website. That would
Yeah,
be
I'll
so.
surely go through your book.
Thank you.
Great advice, Jim. How can we stay motivated on this journey?
Again, motivation it's a learn and develop skill. And one of the ways I've learned to grow motivation, it's by doing little things. I'll make a checklist, but I'll put stupid little things on there like I'm brushing my teeth, or I'm getting dressed, but if when I put little things on there, it's got to be like 15 of, because it's about the numerical numbers. So I'm checking these off, checking these things off, checking these off, and they're all little things. But by the time I get 15 and I get to that 16 thing, folding laundry, it seems a lot smaller now because I've done so many things. And I'm like, let's just crush it out. So I'm doing this big thing, but I'm motivating myself to do it preemptively by, creating that momentum as I go down this checklist.
How can acting help someone connect with the true self?
Conne This again, this goes back to where I'm talking about my book, because we live in that world where everybody's like saying, "I wanna be my true self. I wanna be my best self." But I think that's not enough, because it's like I say to people, it's like I wouldn't wear a tuxedo to the beach. I mean, there's some instances like a wedding or something like that, but generally, I would not wear a tuxedo to the beach. And I also would not speak to my grandmother the same way I would speak when I'm with friends at the bar. So I don't think it's about being just your true self or your best self. Why not create multiple versions of yourself so you can always be the best version of yourself for that moment? In the linguistics world, and it's coming into the cultural world, it's called code switching. It's like where a kid from an urban neighborhood goes into a more affluent neighborhood and they change the way they speak and whatnot. And that's what I'm saying actors do. We're essentially at the point where we're spiritual shapeshifters. We're becoming different people mentally and emotionally. And if we use these tools and techniques for the common person, you can learn to grow and develop yourself so you're not just your true self. You're growing yourself as a being on a level that, like I said, we haven't really seen yet because we haven't tried this before. So you'll always have this wardrobe of different selves that you can draw from to be the best one for that moment you're walking.
That's a really unique hearing. Now, can you share a moment when you felt truly connected to your true self through acting?
I don't know if there's any one moment because,
There are
like I
many.
say, yeah, well, it's not just that. I'm an amalgamation of so many different versions of me at this point that I'm living multiple lives. I mean, I don't know how to explain it really, but it's in my mind, it's a different space. Like the laws of physics don't exist in my mind. I can be in multiple places in there, but because from a little boy from 4 years old, I've been creating these different worlds in my head. So it's 40 years of work I've been doing. So it's life for me has got to be a very much different experience than most of the people I know, but it's because I just chose this different path. So now it's like I'm experiencing stuff all the time.
That's profound. How did that connection influence your life outside of acting?
Well, I mean, it's just like I said, it's just the way I live now. It's like wherever I go, when I walk into a room, these questions automatically shoot out like sonar, and I'm asking questions, I'm learning. And it's gotten to the point where it's like friends will, like, grab me when they have a problem, and they'll be like, "Look at this problem, what's the answer?" Because the best way I could describe it, it's like this old movie I watched in the '80s called Predator 2. There was 2, there's Predator and Predator 2. But in the first movie, they, showed that this alien creature could see, like, heat signatures, infrared, I think it was. And then in the second one, they realized, "Oh, we got him." So they put him in a cold room, but they didn't realize he could switch, like, different vision. Then he saw UV, and that's how he killed people through UV, seeing their lamps. Well, it's just like one of those things now where I see a problem, I just change suits. So because I can change suits, I change myself mentally and emotionally. So when I look at a problem, okay, I can't understand it that way. Change. I don't understand it. I don't understand it until I find a version of me that understands it and can answer it. And my friends have learned that stuff. So It's funny because they'll just grab me, look at this problem, what's the answer? It'll take me a couple minutes. I'm like, okay, here's three different solutions. So that's one of the ways where it's not acting, but it's these tools and techniques that have allowed me to shift in a way that I could see these different answers.
What impact has your diverse life experiences had on your journey and spiritual path?
Um, Life experience, I guess, like I said, it allows me to live a lot bolder. My friends will always like people around me will generally look at shock and some of the stuff I say. It's like, you can't say that. You're not supposed to say that. And most of the times people don't say things because they're so, I mean, we're all programmed. Who does the programming depends on us. Like from little children, the school system, like at least in the States, I'm an American. So it's like, I've been through the American school system, but I can look back and I understand that the American school system is just about creating nuts and bolts. It's about making little factory workers that can make money for the rich. For me, even though I went through that system, I started at age 4. I started before I got influenced by it. So I went up alongside with it, but I also created my own programs. So it allows me to make choices that are bolder than most because I know myself. I'm grounded in myself. Nobody can walk up to me and make me feel insecure about who I am because I've spent 4 years developing that. So it's one of those things now where I don't just use these tools and techniques. They're a lifestyle.
That's admirable. How will those experiences shape the way you teach and inspire others?
Um, I think the most way I do when I do teach, it's just I dual teach now. Like I said, I'll show them how, and it's not hard because it's the same thing. It's one for one. It's just shifting the way you look at it, really. But I explain that aspect of it because it's not just about you know, using these tools to pretend or, you know, put a mask on. It's about being. It's about that's the advent of Stanislavski. He changed it because before that, acting for the first 2100 years, to the first 2400 years, it was about pretending mask. But he changed it. Now it's about being and becoming something else. So it's when I teach that, it's like, yeah, you can use this to for the imaginative, but don't forget, man, you're a human being and these tools work for you. They can develop and grow you. These soft skills that are learned from acting, there's so many of them. And it's like they're skills we need to live. We would be a much more empathetic people if we tried these things out and learned how to feel these different ways, how to see these different ways. It would connect us. And that empathy would just be a byproduct of that connection.
That's amazing. Jim, how do you see your future in this field?
I generally don't know how to answer that one. I've had so many setbacks and fallbacks. I would just if I could hand this idea to someone more capable than me, I would do it in a heartbeat. I say it once, I say it 1,000 times, I'm not the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has. I just I'm a high school dropout. This was not the life plan for me. But once, I realized what I had in my hands, I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't say that, "Oh, I'm gonna go do my own thing." I understood the implications it had. So I'm just gonna run forward the ideas as long as I can, as hard as I can, and hope I can do so.
Thank you, Jim, for sharing your wisdom with us. Listeners, I hope you feel inspired to explore acting as a tool for spiritual growth. Remember, every step you take brings you closer to your inner peace. Keep exploring, stay mindful, and join us next time on Inner Peace Better Health. And don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts with us. Until then, stay peaceful.